Hey, welcome to the Happy PharmD podcast. I'm Dr. Alex Barker, founder of the Happy PharmD, and I'm joined by my very good friend today, Corey Jenks. Corey and I have been good friends for, I don't know, pre-pandemic. Corey was technically still ambulatory care pharmacist, but now he is a speaker, he is a writer, published author, and in today's episode, we'll be talking about parenthood and specifically fatherhood. You probably have a father in your life or know a father, or maybe you're married to a father. We'll be talking about Corey's book today and diving into some of the lessons that he's learned as a father, and me as well, sharing some of the hard lessons that I've learned. Some interesting subjects come up that I didn't anticipate, but I'm glad they did, and they're a lot of fun. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let's jump into it. You're Jewish.
Yeah. Ish. It's not something I advertise. Got my dad's last name, so you wouldn't know.
Jinx.
Yeah.
It's so close to Jinx.
It sure is. And let me tell you, when you're in middle and high school, kids are like, that's a good nickname for you. So
Yeah. It sounds cool.
Thank
Edgy.
you. I have been on a mission to, jinx is bad. You got jinxed. I want you to get jinxed, which means good news. You got jinxed. Boom.
You just got jinxed all over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
Mm-hmm. So
it is cooler sounding than Barker.
I don't know. I like the name Barker. I think it's cool. It was the name of the guy who sold us our car. His last name.
Really?
Yeah. So you'll be getting your commission check in the mail soon.
Yeah, in another life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bob Barker is really, that's it,
Yeah. But I like it's a verb. Or no, not a verb, an adjective, I guess you would say. It's like it describes, or I guess it's a noun. Like you are a Barker.
Yeah. Well, do you know what it is?
Like
what a
carnival?
Barker is?
Well, to me, there's a dog barks. So someone that like yells and doesn't shut up, which.
Yeah. So the traditional profession of a barker is someone who calls out what's inside of an event or a circus, a theater troupe, which is very much what I do. Like, yeah. I am living my family tradition, even though like it's not even at my actual name. So my father, like my father is actually my stepdad.
Mm-hmm.
But like I accepted him really as my father, like he accepted me as a son. And so like in 8th grade, I went in front of a judge to change my name from Richie to Barker.
Mm-hmm.
And to, really symbolize who my father was to me.
Wow.
And at the time, I don't think I really considered like what it would mean, because I think like you grow up in a smaller town and everyone calls you by your last name. All the boys do anyway.
Yeah.
Like that's how you're signified on the football team.
Yeah.
Right. Which I never was a part of.
Shocking.
But everyone's like, Barker. What's a Barker? And then they would go woof woof, and I would
meow back.
I would be sarcastic, and I was very much a clown.
Mm-hmm.
But it was about my dad. That's how much my dad meant to me. Which is probably a good segue for why you're here.
Yeah. Talk about my new book about being a dad. So
yeah, you continue to be like one in a million kind of person on the podcast, because not only are you a pharmacist, but you're a pharmacist speaker.
Yeah.
Who goes around the country and speaks about, innovation, changing ideas, improv, putting humor into places where it needs to be to get people to think differently. That's very unique. And then you are a pharmacist who wrote a book about being a father.
Yeah.
I wish you would have done it before you were a father, but you waited, and I think that was wise.
Well, why would you want me to have written a book about being a father, having never been one? So I can
Be-
write a super judgmental book about all the parents that, like, all the things I think parents should be doing, about like the annoying thing that like kids around me are doing, saying, if you were a good dad, you would tell them to just behave.
well,
And
that's what millennials are known for.
being experts on things they've never actually done.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
right.
all the career coaches out there who never changed careers.
Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
I think you actually, this is now an advertisement for you. You do actually help people. I just, like, the amount of like life coaches and people who are just like quoting other smarter people
Mm,
who just spend their time turning wheels, like trying to get, I don't know. This is taking a turn, but it's one of my, like, you want to talk about one in a million. This is how I see the world. I'm glad you brought up all of like the millennial, like fake expert stuff, like the idea of like influencers, which is kind of a Gen Z thing, but you don't know anything, but you're popular, so you influence people, and it's like high school all over again. All the talentless, cool people get all the attention and the money and the new BMW for their 16th birthday, and
mm.
it's all a facade, or it's mostly a facade, and people
You've
do it.
told me about that in the world of fatherhood. Um, that there's all these like Instagram dads, which I didn't even know about.
Do not go down that wormhole, or be horribly entertained by going down this wormhole. But continue.
Yeah, I've never really dug into the world of fatherhood content. Like I can appreciate the tip, like maybe the random TikTok video about like what it's like to be a dad or a husband,
Mhm.
but I've never known this world of like father advice, or that it was even a niche.
Oh, it's a big niche, and part of the failed marketing of this book, which by the way, I'll hold it up. It's called "I Guess I'm a Dad Now: A Humorous Handbook for Newish Dads Who Don't Want to Suck." Was to engage with other influencers and try to get them to like talk about my book, and I just couldn't do it. So I'm more active on Twitter, I think, because I'm a writer, so it's a chance to write. But on Instagram, let me tell you, there's like two categories. There is the super somber, your child has 18 summers with you. If you spend any moment not honoring them, you are a terrible dad and they will resent you forever. I'm like,
Mm.
okay, fine. But what if dinner needs to get made? Can I tell my kid I can't play so that like dinner doesn't burn? No, you may not. They will resent you, even if they are hungry. Uh, so
You
there's
know, and
that.
I can relate to, I think a lot, I mean, we have a lot of moms here too,
Mhm.
who hopefully maybe have a counterpart who's the father, or maybe
Yeah.
not, I don't know.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of guilt in, I think, our generation about how we handle ourselves with our children. It wasn't until I lost my father that I realized how motivated by guilt and shame
Hmm.
I I how experience, like how much I'm experiencing that on a day-to-day basis, where I feel bad for wanting to not be around anyone for like a period of time during the day,
Hmm.
right? Um, and maybe that's a part of my upbringing, uh, but I think it's interesting that you address it in the book, because it, and I know you pretty well because, we work a lot together,
Hmm.
and I think it's interesting how you talk about it in a really open way that I don't see. I mean, shame isn't really talked about very much.
Yeah, I think maybe one of the drivers for us millennials who are now entering middle age is that, and this is, I don't do this, and I kind of address this in the book as well, and I might be wrong, but we've put our entire adult lives on the internet, from college acceptance to now being a parent. And so, do you put like the bad moments online? You don't. You put all the great moments of, look at this cool thing I did for my kid, and they love me and they hug me. And you didn't see like the 17 hours where you were like a jerk to them. And I admit now and in the book, like sometimes I'm a jerk to my kids because I have a short temper. I didn't sleep. But I think that could, like, if you're scrolling through dad Instagram and you're saying like, oh my God, they built a ninja course for the kid. Oh my God, they they tied their car up to their car. So it seemed like their car was towing their car. Oh my God. You're going to feel like crap. You're going to feel like guilt and shame. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's, I mean, the internet isn't real. Anything, I just feel like there's so much fakeness that it bugs me. And then it just filters down to your shame as a parent. And you're like, why should I even try? So,
Yeah, I can relate to the idea of I wish I was a better dad.
yeah.
And that can I've never found that to be motivating.
Mm-hmm.
It usually just makes me feel bad when I feel like I'm being overly selfish.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll push back a bit on you, help you out, maybe play a little therapist role here. I am not a licensed medical professional in therapy, by the way. This is I'm a
Please.
pharmacist who talks all day long. But
Mm.
the fact that you're even introspective enough to think that you might not be meeting the standards of being a good dad puts you in the probably top 5% of dads. I mean, all you have to do is look around and realize that most dads are pretty checked out. And that was sort of the impetus for the book. I was at the park with my kids after having gone part time, by the way, so I could spend more time with my kids. So the base of this was spending more time with them and just seeing a bunch of very uninterested, checked out, zoned out dads scrolling on their fantasy football teams or whatever it is. If you care enough to think that I might not be hitting the mark as a dad, you're winning as a dad, as long as you then at least modify your behavior a little bit. But I will push back on your guilt about wanting time alone in that one, for you, you're provider for your family. How do you provide? You use your creative juices to create content and build a business. And if you don't have time to put two thoughts together, that's going to fail and you're going to fail as a provider. Number two, and I have a whole chapter called Dude Self-Care, is that if you,
Yeah, I chuckled at that chapter.
well, it's, I got to make it like so a guy will actually want to read it. But if you
Yeah.
aren't taking care, if your tank isn't filled at least to like halfway, you're gonna be short and crappy with your kids. So,
Mhm.
and then there's a balance. There's like the dudes that are like, I need to golf every day and have an out. Like, figure out what your bare minimum to meet on a daily basis is, and work with your partner to figure that out. But yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah, it's not strictly just a guy thing, right? I feel like work is really good at sapping out your empathy bucket to the point where your empathy bankrupt,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as soon as the first problem happens with your spouse, with your kids, it's like it's the end of the world. Um, we have overwhelming moments in our family, where typically what happens is my patience gets worn thin, maybe by the workday, maybe by something negative that happened, and I find something wrong in the house, and it'll be a nail sticking out from a baseboard. It'll be just maybe a bunch of trash has been collected on the countertops, and I lose it on that thing where now my focus is on what caused this thing, and now I've got to fret about it, and now I have to go downstairs. Oh shoot, my wife's sleeping. She's literally taking a nap right
You
now.
are actually a terrible husband now. I will put on the record. You're
We have
thoughtless.
video evidence.
Evidence that you actually are a terrible father and husband. So
I legitimately she's taking a nap next
yeah, well,
door.
she was. She was taking a nap.
Yeah, let's be correct. Anyways, I'll stamp about it.
Honey, it was hailing.
I
Flash hailstorm.
I'll get all worked up about this thing, and I'll be huffy, and I sigh a bunch, and it just causes stress, and it cascades into the family, right? Where it causes a fight, it causes bickering. Um, the only way I found to really overcome that, and I think your book talks about this a little bit, is the idea of pausing,
Mm-hmm.
right? To have the space to step back. And I find that point very helpful for me as a reminder to be like, it's really easy to get caught up in the moment and I don't know, let my anger control me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the and I think I was talking to my wife about this morning. Like, there's this risk of like putting on your Pollyanna glasses and realizing, well, I'm upset about this little thing, but in the big picture, it's 2024. We have central air and iPhones. It's great, but those feelings are real. And
Yeah.
I think that it's this, like, we'll have the same thing happen in our house where, for me, it's like I go to the sink and there's a dish in the sink, and all I ask is that you fill the dish with water so it doesn't get crusty and gross, and I'll put it away. I'm the dish fairy in the house. I'm also the laundry fairy and the dinner fairy. I'm just like, just put water in it. But I also know she's been at home working and sometimes with the kids, and it's not about that. It was about the patient that was upset at work. It was about the night of sleep that we didn't get. It was about the day at the in-laws that went bad. And then I'll start like getting angry and have some self-reflection, guys, and moms. Everybody can. I say, like, what's the matter? I'm like, I'm being irrational. Just like, yeah.
Does your wife handle your humorous approach well?
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't always laugh. She doesn't always.
I wasn't convinced. I'm not
She
convinced.
doesn't always laugh at my jokes, but not every joke's a 10 out of 10. But
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
we both do a good job at laughing at the absurdity of parenthood. And I mean, at life in general. Like, what are the odds that we're together on this planet talking on a computer thousands of miles away, on like instantly seeing you in HD and me in less than HD because you invested in your camera? Like, it's an absurd world we live in. Like, our son the other day just like took his pants off and went up to the front window and was waving his little dinghy around. When was I ever going to say you need to take your penis away from the window? Like, that's I could get angry, or we could just laugh and hope that
It's a good thing we're not monetized yet on YouTube.
I'll have to talk about
Because I
anatomy.
think what you just said was not good.
Okay. Well,
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's she
the
handles it well.
unexpected. Well, I think your approach, which is what I appreciate most about the book, is that, well, it kind of prepares you for the unexpected. This happened to me literally a month ago now, but it was such an introspective moment for me because my child asked me questions about racism.
Oh wow.
Yeah. She was asking, it was late at night, and I don't know if you're the inspiration behind this or not, but
For
at
racism, I
night,
hope not.
oh, come on. It's no, at the end of the day, I lay down with my girls and we just talk.
Mhm.
We just lay in bed and we just chat about stuff. And, 60-70% of the time it's nothing. It's vapid. This is what happened today. But sometimes it's stuff like this. And she was asking me questions about why some people don't like other people that look different. And, it could have been really uncomfortable because, like, I don't want to talk about racists. I don't want to talk about why people hate other people. But it was, I think, just my comfortableness with talking about uncomfortable things at times that made me feel really, I guess, proud at the end of it that I was able to be an adult and
Mhm.
have this very in-depth conversation about why the way the world is, and not the way it should be, but the way w- you know, I, but talking about what I believe and why I think racism is a bad thing and what needs to be in place of it. Um, but it was very much an improv moment for me because I was like, yeah, it does exist, and let's talk about it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Versus,
you
like,
yes and it. You agreed to the reality instead of being like, no, it's not real. And then at some point, she's going to realize you were lying, and then anything you say isn't real because you could lie to her. So that was yeah.
I don't think I ever talked to my parents about, like, racism.
Our TV was on during dinner, so you didn't really have conversations. So we never had a chance to
Yeah,
to talk.
yeah. I guess I
My
learned it from,
yeah,
like, different strokes, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Hollywood will teach me everything I need to know.
Yeah.
How old are your girls?
12 and 10.
Okay, yeah, so they're sentient enough in the world to understand that. So,
Yes, they're getting to the age where we have to talk about culture and sex and hate and racism, and it's interesting.
mhm.
Um, because I think I have enough awareness to also talk about my biases too, because like there's obviously a lot of people in the world who disagree with me, right? Racists are one of them.
Yeah.
They legitimately disagree with me, and
Mhm.
they have a viewpoint, and I disagree with it, but yeah.
See, and that's going to be the next edition. See, so this is for newish dads. So I talk from, like, you talk about speaking from experience. I wrote from like pre-contemplation to 5. So these conversations are we have like my sons are aware of the concept of mortality. So that was my first foray into like, oh, what do I do? How do I answer this? But
Yeah.
it'll be interesting, and that's why I didn't write about stuff like this, because I haven't had experienced it on first-hand basis. But I think you handled it well. You accepted reality. You answered
Yeah,
honestly. Yeah.
but what I think your book highlighted for me was, I think sitting with the uncomfortableness at times of like n- it doesn't have to be perfect.
No.
It was a really good reminder for how at least I want to think about my fatherhood approach, that like I want to be a good example, to these little girls, that one day we win, and I make mistakes all the freaking time.
Yeah.
uh and it's hard to accept that, honestly. It's
Yeah.
hard.
Well, I think I have a chapter called, it's not if you screw them up, but how you screw them up. that that acknowledgement that every parent's imperfect, and we're all going to
Yeah.
pass along our crap to our kids. So I think the imperative thing is to figure out, like, one, what did your parents pass down to you that you wish you had not gotten, and make sure that you change your habits so that you do not pass those same things to your kids.
Yeah.
And for me, those are a little more deeply personal than what I want to share publicly on a podcast. I talk a little bit about a few of the things in the book, but it's really about changing certain habits. I mean, I'll use a universal one that we now have to deal with is phone use and screens. Like, if you are on your phone all the time, your kids are going to think that's normal. Do you want your
Yeah.
kids on the phone all the time? No. Do you want to spend your time arguing with strangers on the internet? No. Would you like your kids to spend their time arguing with strangers on the internet in their life? No. So like that's one niche example, but yeah, I think if you're doing it right, you're having that introspection to realize, like, when you say something or do something and then your kid does it and repeats it. Oh, they're listening. Oh,
Yeah.
oops.
Yeah. my my mother would acknowledge this, that a very common saying for my complaints was, life's hard, then you die.
Yeah.
As if like that's a good justification for why I need to shut up
Yeah.
about my complaints. And I remember getting just like so frustrated hearing that.
Hmm.
Um, life's hard, then you die. Um, we don't say that. I have said it as a joke at times.
Hmm.
But I usually dive into like, okay, well, let's talk about it. I don't always do it. Sometimes it's like, Addie, just knock it off right now.
So,
Now is not the time to complain. We're in the middle of Chicago trying to survive.
yeah.
Please keep your Charger complaints to yourself.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the I guess just the confirmation and hearing the other perspective, because what your book doesn't purport is perfection, or that this is an approach and you're always going to win, right,
Hmm.
with this. I've read other father books in the past, and sometimes what it does is that it feels like it gives you a set of rules to
Hmm.
follow, and it's almost as if it's like pharmacy school all over again. I hate to
Yeah.
be more relevant to our podcast, but the ideas are that this is the rule, and if you break the rule, then that equals bad or
And
failure.
failure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And I've
that,
done that to myself over and over again throughout the years. I've
yeah.
gotten way better. in the last, I would say, 2.
Mhm.
And I know, I mean, we're good friends. I can
Yeah,
say that
yeah.
publicly.
It's disclosed to the world.
Buy this book. We need it. Buy it.
Yeah.
I I know that you as well have struggled with perfectionism, and
Mhm.
I know that your wife is also, a nurse practitioner, and so she's grown up in that same environment of perfectionism.
Mhm.
What would you say I didn't see it in the book, but was there like a turning point for the both of you with your kids where you are, or is it just constantly happening where you're like letting go of perfectionism for your kids?
I think the way to think about it is I have a chapter like the hill, like you only have so many hills to die on as a parent. And
Mm,
so, like, if you try to make everything perfect, you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to burn the people that care for your kids out. So, if it's your parents, your friends, like your school, because like there's those parents that are just like, they need to do this, this, and this. And it's like, there's a class of 25 other kids. And you're good luck with that. Right. So, for us, it was my wife's not a perfectionist. She's much more laid back than I was. And honestly, she's like the turning point was meeting her and learning how to chill out, probably. And
you
for
make a
me,
good
like,
match then, yeah?
yeah, she is. I think we like I've learned to help teach her to like plan things, and she's helped me to like let go of things that are unimportant, like the
Mm,
shape of the container that you put your cucumbers in, which I talk about in my first book, Permission to Care,
mm.
like that perfectionism. So,
So
but I
you live
think
in the future then, and she lives in the present?
I think that I live in well between the depression and anxiety, I live in the past and the future sometimes.
That's
Depression is worrying about
interesting.
is thinking about the past. Anxiety is worrying about the future. I think for us it was when we got pregnant, sitting down and coming up with some basic guidelines of what we cared the most about. And for us, it was like 2 to 3 broad strokes that we cared enough about to think that this is going to help make healthy kids that can basically our goal is to help them one get out of the house and be taxpayers, not be on the right side of taxes, be taxpayers, but also try to like help them reach their full potential. So for us,
Mm,
it's a big thing is nutrition and a big thing is attention spans. So limiting screens and limiting junk food. And then as our kids gotten older, going to school, birthday parties, etc., realizing that like a cupcake here and there isn't going to kill them and ruin our big plans. And I talk about in the book like our pretty strict approach to eating the first couple of years of life to hopefully help set them up for long term not being like addicted to food. And that's just that's what we care about. We have family members that cared about sleep, and their sleep schedule was everything. And we were just like, oh, we're gonna live life, and we're not gonna sleep much. So I think it's really about figuring out like the big things that are important. Do your best with those, and understand that there's still a bunch that's out of your control.
yes, and I think it is the generational curse to just want the opposite of what your parents wanted for you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, my mom was an army brat, and
Mm-hmm.
her parents brought her to, like, 12 different schools.
Mm-hmm.
So she never grew up in one area and never really had, like, long-term friends growing up, and that was very hard for her.
Mm-hmm.
It taught her a lot of skills, right? Learning how to make friends quick, that kinda thing. But for me, she wanted one place. She wanted me to not move or not do anything. And guess what I wanted growing up? I wanted to go places.
Yeah.
I hated the fact that I was from this small town and that I couldn't experience the world.
Yeah.
And so now what do I do with my kids? Well, I take them places.
Mm-hmm.
And I can already see it in both of my girls. They don't like traveling.
Yeah.
They you know this, but not everyone knows that my wife and I we were blessed through my business that for about 3 months we were able to go around the country and like live in a van
Mm-hmm.
and visit like parks and stuff. My kids enjoyed that, but they really just wanted to be home
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day. And I do wonder if like you can do the best you can. You try to make your kids better than you, right? But they're going to want what they're going to want. And it's it it doesn't irk me. It doesn't make me mad as a father, but it does kind of like jab the lesson in my heart that your kids don't always want what you want for them. And boy, is that hard to give up sometimes.
Yeah, the old lesson from Varsity Blues. I don't want your life. One of the most famous lines from that movie ever.
That's
If
well,
you've
quite
never,
a callback.
yeah, 25 years ago or so. Any James Van Der Beek fans? Anyway, yeah, I think that is one thing we accepted before we had kids.
Yeah.
Is and I'm one of my favorite comedians is Adam Carolla. So I've been listening to his podcast for years, and he has twins, a boy and a girl. And the boy is like super chill, kind of like a little puppy dog, goes wherever. And his daughter is wired very like anxiously and type A. He said, from the time they were kids, they were different, and they're wired how they're wired. And I think that's something that really sunk into me before I even had kids was, like you say, we're going to do our best to instill like values, habits, things to help them make them most of whoever they are, but they shall be who they'll be. And I read, this is another section of the book. I'm a huge baseball fan. I played in high school poorly, but I played. And my wife and I have traveled around the country going to different major league ballparks. And someone said, Corey, what if they don't like baseball? I said, well, just give them up for adoption. Try again. It was a joke, folks. No, I said, well, then I guess we'll find whatever it is they do like and do the best that we can in supporting that. And for me, it's having a background in comedy is helpful. So if they're into like theater or arts, I'm in there. I've purposely tried to play the guitar for like a decade so that I can get them into music. And if they want to play music, well, then I have a background in that. So I don't know, like, and all of this, like they've played Little League and had a ton of fun and are just, my boys are super rough and tumble and play sports and wrestle each other. So, you know, I say this like tongue in cheek, my worst fears have not yet been realized, but like they're into playing sports and being, physical. So, but we already noticed the difference in their wiring. Like the younger one is much more neat, thoughtful. Like you wouldn't think the 3-year-old dinner plate's going to be like less messy than the 6-year-old, but the 6-year-old's like a freaking tornado. Like he just blows through, knocks things over, shakes his salt and seasonings everywhere. And the 3-year-old's like, Jake's messy. I'm like, yes. And then the little girl's super chill, more chill than the boys were as babies. So if you're going to get a lesson as a parent out of this, or you're thinking about kids, is you can read the books. The kids don't read the books. You can think of rules. You go back to your rules, right? Kids don't read the rule book. Doesn't mean you don't enforce, rules as a parent, but they're going to be how they're going to be. So good luck. And the sooner you can accept that, I think the less friction there'll be. I think a lot of friction is parents. And I saw it growing up with kids that played like Little League and they didn't want to be there, but their parents put them in it. I see it now with parents who are forcing their kids to do stuff. Like, you're going to be pissed at your kid when they don't want to do what you think that they should do because you want them to do it. And the sooner you can just move on, the better. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty fractious relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that I saw that in my kids. My parents pushed me because they saw that I excelled, in like math and science and stuff. And I don't see my children excelling in those areas like how I did. But I'm really thankful for that lesson to just nurture them in what their interests are. Like my daughters are both really interested in creating stories. And so I gave them access to like video editing software very early on. And they're better at it than I am. And I took a class on it, and they're creating stuff. And I don't always get what they're creating because I'm an old man now. But I'm thankful to see them like create and love what they create.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're a creator, so maybe they see that and that rubs off on them too. And like my oldest
hate my YouTube channel, so I don't know
but you're doing
I don't
it
know
though.
if I
So
agree
like,
with
they
that.
can hate your content, but they can appreciate that you're doing it. Like
Yeah,
that's my son is writing a book on an old laptop because, well, dad's writing a book. I want to write a book.
Oh, that's cool.
I put pictures in and he types out, in his rudimentary 6-year-old typing skills of like, this was Christmas, this was my birthday, this was that. And so to me, that's like, I wrote this book partly for me to remind myself of the lessons. Like this was just a process of observing my own mistakes, my own lessons, and putting them in a humorous form. Part of it was because we tell our kids be whatever you want and do what you want, but then we go and like do jobs we hate, and then they see that, and then they think we're hypocrites and ignore us. So I want to write a book. Well, kids, I've written a second book, but part of it too is like they're gonna do what you do. If I spend my time sitting around watching football and drinking beer, they're gonna grow up and just be lazy. So Daddy writes books, so then he wants to write a book. Great, like that's like mission accomplished. Like if I sell no copies, which I have, thank you for the one that you bought. My kids are seeing me follow something that I care about.
I should have grabbed it for the podcast. It's on my desk, which
It's
is
okay. I believe you.
It's over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people can check out your book on Amazon and Amazon, right?
Yeah, I think you could get it on like Barnes and Noble probably, but Amazon's the one place to go. And as we record this in May, it was released on Mother's Day. So the joke was, what better gift to give mom to be a better dad? And like many of my jokes, it sort of fell flat based on the initial sales. But that's, books are marathons. You know that. It's my second book, so I know that too. But if you go to my website, which is CoreyJenks.com, so it's CORYJENKS.com, there's a section that says pre-order bonuses. I'm extending this pretty much indefinitely. I put a lot of cool content together. Like the book itself has recipes, some travel tips, but if you go, there's a couple of tiers of pre-orders. I'll give you everything. Just say you're a friend of Alex's, and I'll send you there's instructions on the page. Just send me your receipt from Amazon. I'll send you everything for like the 5 level books. You're gonna get recipes, gear I use as a dad. You're gonna get like a travel checklist, my workout. So if you think that if you're watching this, you're like, this guy looks pretty fit for a dad, I can show you how I maintain this sleek dad figure. Because I want to help dads out. I want to make it simple. And to show my earnestness, like my links of dad gear, they're not Amazon affiliate links. If I was a good business person and super popular, maybe. But you're just going to go and buy the stuff, and I'll get $0 for it, and that's okay, because you'll be rolling around with some useful stuff, and it'll make your life better. So,
well, thank you for your generosity, Corey.
It's great. I know, it's just seeping out of me. Yeah. If you're listening to this in like 2027, I'll still send you some stuff. So, what am I gonna say? No, come on. Like dads are busy. That's the whole point. Everyone does pre-order bonuses, but Alex, you know that I break conventions. I'm gonna do post-order bonuses or post-release bonuses.
You're a hell of a good guy, Corey.
Oh, thank you. So I appreciate you for having me on here yet again. I feel like Steve Martin on Saturday Night Live joining like the 5 Timers Club or whatever it is. So
that would be sweet.
I should get a sport coat or something. Or a medium.
Thanks for hanging out with me, Corey. I appreciate it.
Anytime, man. Thank you.